I'm here with the one and only HondaPro Jason. I'm Dave Erickson, and this is the big day we've been waiting for almost a week now, Jason. I put out there on social media that you and I back together again, and we're talking about this 2016 Honda Civic, which you were at the LA debut, right?
Yes, it was. I was invited out to the LA debut, and they had it under this silk sheet, and they pulled it off, and it was. I mean, the style is so much different. It was very exciting to be out there.
Let's kick this off. We got a lot of questions to go over, but
Yeah.
let's do a compare and contrast between the 15 and 16. Let's start with the exterior because this was completely redesigned this year. It's not unidentifiable, but there's a stark difference between the 15 and 16. What stands out to you on the exterior?
The taillights. I mean, the taillights stand out most to me. They made these huge. One looks like a big C, and one complements it the opposite side with a big C. And when talking to the designers at Honda, they said they wanted to make sure that this car was noticeable during the daylight and dark from front or back. So coming or going, they wanted to make sure you knew it was a Civic. And if you've seen the car on the road, it's unmistakable. And you can point it out every time you're like, there's a Civic. So I think they've done their job very well.
This is a larger vehicle than last year, 4 inches longer, and new front, new end, a sloping roof line, which kind of gives it that coupe look, even though I'm talking about the sedan in this case. What a stylish, sleek looking vehicle.
No, I agree. I think it looks like a coupe and it looks like a hatchback. There's so many people that think that the four-door is a hatchback because of the look, and I think that's a good thing. I think it looks sharp.
How close, and this is kind of off script a little bit, how close is this Civic getting to the Accord in look and style?
It's close. It's
Yeah.
close. I mean, it looks like it, and if you've driven it, I think it handles like the Accord. So it's getting there. It's no longer that subcompact car.
Yeah.
Where I think the fit is actually going to take up some of that space where the Civic was, allowing the Civic to grow a little bit, which it has.
Okay. Interior-wise, more high-quality materials in this vehicle versus last year's, more interior room in the back for people my size, for people who are, even in the 6'1", 6'2" range.
Yeah, I agree. It's much more high quality. And I think in this vehicle, and you've said in both of them, I think you sit as part of the car when you're in the 16. In the 15, I think you sat a little higher. And in the 16, you sit in the car. The center console's raised a little higher. The seat is dropped a little bit lower. Your field of vision is better. And you feel like you're a part of the car, which makes the driving experience so much nicer.
Now, you talked about that field of vision, and when you talk about the the instrument cluster or the gauge cluster, they've done away with that mini screen above the RPMs.
I was just getting used to that screen. I just started to love it, and they got rid of it. But I like the way that they took the analog and the digital and they put them together. It's pleasing to the eye, it's easier to read, and it's totally customizable. So you can take out pieces you don't want or add pieces you want. You see exactly the information you're looking for, nothing more.
And the center stack, a lot more, it's lost some weight. It is now thinner. You've got rid of the air vents. It's very sleek, cleaner, and simpler.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. I think, and a lot of people are going to yell at me for this, but I think part of the simplicity is not having that radio dial. They got rid of all the dials. They get rid of everything and made it nice and smooth looking. And I know everyone's like, well, I want the radio dial on there. But when you look at it, if you can imagine a radio dial, it would really look out of place on that. I think that center stack.
One thing I do miss is having some sort of dial. I know it's on the steering wheel, and you can use your thumb to slide through the volume, which I think was genius. Just a sliding of the thumb versus a toggle. That's kind of nice.
Yeah, or that little button that you got to keep pressing up and down really fast.
Right, right. It takes some touch, though, if you want to move up just a few clicks on the volume button.
It does. And the biggest thing, I think, for people that own more than one Honda is the other Hondas still have the up and down buttons. So you're constantly pressing the wrong button on the Civic. You have to kind of retrain your brain a little bit. But I think it's simpler. It's a simpler design for sure.
All right, let's go mechanically, under the hood.
Yes.
3 engine options versus 2 this year.
Turbo. I mean, that's the big news. The turbo is the big news. And Honda's introducing the turbo here, but they're going to be using the turbo in the upcoming CR-V and the upcoming Accord. So that's already been announced out in Japan. So they're going so turbo, and many reasons: the power for sure, smaller displacement, better fuel economy. So I take those three over a naturally aspirated engine all day.
Isn't it funny? It is, kudos to the engineers to have the fuel economy is actually better in the turbo than it is in the 2 liter.
And there's more power.
Yeah.
So more power and better fuel economy.
Fuel economy last year was 30.39 for city highway. This year standard is 31.41, and then with the turbo 31.42. Isn't that incredible? Awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, it is.
This is a big deal, and I've come to really like this in not only the Honda but other vehicles that are incorporating Apple CarPlay and Android Auto as far as technology and features.
I agree, and that's just the beginning. There are so many other apps that they're going to be adding on. This is really in its infant stage. So there's going to be much more music apps, a lot more navigation, a lot more things that you can do. And essentially, this will keep your cell phone out of your hands.
Yeah. And
you'll be able to use everything on the screen just like you would on your phone without having to download anything. You simply plug it in and go. People are looking for. They're not looking for a new, operating system they have to learn or add to. They want the same one they've had. They just want to be able to use it in your car. And that's what Honda's providing. And they're one of the few manufacturers providing both Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It's you drive all different kind of cars. Usually they choose one or the other. And Honda's done both, and they're going to do both in all of the cars from this point forward, which is awesome.
New this year in 2016 versus last year, remote start will be available or is available, LED headlights, and lane keeping assist as far as some of that technology. There's more safety to talk about, yes, which is very exciting when you talk about lane keeping assist, forward collision warning, adaptive cruise control, lane watch camera available on this one in 2016, standard backup camera. I mean, it's mandatory now to have these types of features no matter what you call them.
Yes, it is, and it's getting us one step closer to autonomous. Because if they had a self-driving car out today, most people would be scared to death of it. But if you prep them, like Honda's doing, and they have things like forward collision warning and low-speed follow that will actually follow the person in front of you at a certain distance all the way to zero, all the way to a stop. So the car will follow the person in front of you when you're doing 55. As they slow down and traffic gets heavier, it'll come to a complete stop. That's almost a self-driving car. The lane keep assist, where if you start to veer out of your lane, it'll make small corrections in the steering wheel, keeping you in your lane. That's almost a self-driving car. So they're really prepping us and giving us the safety for when they release a self-driving car. We'll be like, well, we kind of have that now, so let's just do it. So it makes perfect sense. And I think the low-speed follow is my favorite of all the technologies because it's not in any other of the Hondas. And it's for stop and go traffic, for anything where we've all kind of looked down, back up, and that car stopped right in front of us. This will help prevent some of those accidents.
We've got a number of questions, more questions on YouTube versus Facebook. And I'm going to go with the Facebook one first, then we'll kind of dive into YouTube. And this is a question from Nicholas Mannheimer. And this is something you said, had great question for this, is he's asking, why are most Japanese automakers, and he lists them here, and Honda here in America? And then he also said here, the CVT, why is that added to most makes and models nowadays? He doesn't really like the groaning sound of the CVT, and I know that's a common complaint by a lot of people. Kind of reminds him of a lawnmower, he says. And any chance Honda is going back to a traditional 4 or 5-speed automatic transmission? I'll leave it at that. There's plenty to talk about.
Yeah, you know what? One of the reasons they're going with the CVT is gas mileage, for sure. I mean, you get so much better gas mileage out of a CVT transmission than to do a conventional 4 or 5-speed, and the numbers show it. As for sound, I think that was typical in some of the older ones. Nissan was one of the first ones to come out with the CVT across the board, and people complained about the rubber band feel as it got up to the RPM range, and then it would fall back down, and the groan sound. I think if you look at some newer CVTs that Honda has coming out, they feel more like traditional transmissions. I mean, if you get on them really hard, they will bring the RPMs all the way up and stick there, giving you the best possible pickup. And they are faster in acceleration. They're better gas mileage. As far as bringing back traditional, the only automatics you're going to see are going to be like the dual clutch transmissions, more like they're like they're like a manual without the clutch, and that's like what they're doing with the 9-speed and the NSX and some of the other cars. And Honda is playing with right now a 10-speed transmission out in Japan.
Wow.
So if that reaches America, I'm thinking it's going to be the Odyssey. That'll be a dual clutch transmission or not, I'm not sure. So they're getting away from 4 and 5-speed, to answer your question, Nick, for sure. But I think they're raising the bar and jumping all the way into the 9 and the 10 speeds for things that aren't going to be a CVT.
Let's transition over to YouTube. Herc Zeus. He isn't the only person to make this type of question, but Honda has reportedly issued a stop sale order on the 2016 Civics equipped with the 2-liter engine, and he goes on, he has some quotes here, but what do you know about this?
I know quite a bit about it. What happened was there was a small snap ring that was either improperly installed or in some cases missing completely in the 2-liter engines. These engines were made, I believe they were made all over the country, and a lot of them were made up in Canada. And the stop sale are only on certain ones that had the 2-liter in it. Most of the time, if the snap ring wasn't in the car, you would know within the first like 15 to 20 miles. You're really not going to drive this car 4,000 or 5,000 miles with this ring missing. But Honda, as a safety precaution, did do a stop sale. As far as I know, they fixed all of the dealer cars. So that stop sale, I believe, is over. And they've corrected a lot of the cars that recalled that people have already bought. So this is something that, it sometimes happens with a brand new model and a brand new engine. It was caught very soon, and most of them have been corrected.
This is one of the topics you have discussed or will discuss on your HondaPro show on YouTube?
I mean, I don't discuss recalls a whole lot.
Okay.
I try to stay on the positive side unless it gets totally out of control. The airbag recall I had talked about, because that blew up across everyone, and so many people had questions. They didn't really understand how it worked or what cars were qualified for the recalls. But normally, smaller recalls I don't talk about on the HondaPro show.
Okay. Next question here. When is the big reveal, the SI and the Type R?
It's a great question. The SI, Honda hasn't said anything about the SI yet, except for it's coming. So I'm assuming the SI is going to be here before the Type R. The Type R is scheduled to be here next summer. So we have about 16 months or so away from the new Type R. At Geneva, they just showed what the new Civic hatchback is going to look like, and that should be the body of the Type R. What we don't know is what the body of the SI is going to be. It could be a coupe, it could be a 4-door, it could be the hatchback. There's also rumors that the SI might not be coming to Honda. They might do a Type S model and give it to Acura. So it might be a Civic Type R and the Acura Type S. So there's a whole bunch of different questions. We're not really sure which way Honda's going to go yet, but we should find out pretty soon.
And we were talking about this with the engines and the turbo. A question here by the Mate01. When will they make a turbo version with a manual transmission?
That's coming soon.
Yeah.
In fact, I was able to drive one in California, made it to the 1.5 turbo, and it was a blast to drive. And Honda is figuring out right now what models to put it in. Again, whether it'll be the 2-door or the 4-door. I'd like to see it in both, but I think most people would prefer it in the coupe. But I drove the 6-speed. It's a 6-speed manual, made it to the turbo. It was a lot of fun to drive, and I think people are going to really enjoy it once it comes out. I'm thinking 2017 on that one.
Here's a little kudos out to you. HondaPro Jason is one of my favorite YouTubers from 314JRock.
Well, thank you guys. That's awesome.
Obviously. Static Shock 1646. These usernames are crazy. Which generation do you prefer and why? The 15 or the 16?
I prefer the 16. I love the technology. I love the drive. I love that there's a turbo engine in it. And most people know that I drive a 14 SI, which is the 9th generation. And the 2014 SI was my favorite until I drove the 16. Once I got back into my car, it felt dated. It felt old. The technology felt old. Inside, it just felt cold. It didn't feel as warm and inviting as the 16 did. And it definitely didn't handle like the 16. They built the 16 knowing that the Type R is coming, and the 16 is built off a worldwide platform. So the platform that they built the 2016 Civic on will be the same platform they're going to use around the world for all the Civics, along with the Type R. And this is the platform that they built the Civic LX on. So your base model, $20,000 Civic LX, has the same platform as the new Type R does. So as far as width and length and wheelbase, it has to handle the power and the handling of that car. So when you drive the base model, it's completely different chassis and feels so much stronger than even my SI does as a 2014 sport car.
This one from Lee. Hey, Dave and Jason. I wanted to ask if this car will survive pretty snowy winters. I really like this car, was considering buying one, but weeks ago we had a pretty bad blizzard hit their town. I felt like I probably should look for some vehicles with higher clearance. Thank you. So if they don't go with the Civic, if you're not thinking Civic, what would you suggest?
If you're not thinking Civic, I'd go HRV or CRV next.
Okay.
The HRV and CRV are both going to give you a little bit more ground clearance. CRV is going to give you more room inside, a little bit more space, not a lot, a little bit more storage space. And again, it depends on how you're going to be using the car. Mm-hmm. Around town, HRV is perfect. I have one myself. Longer trips, I'd suggest the CRV just because of the extra power and a little extra comfort inside.
So would you still look at the Civic for winter conditions, or would you say, probably best to go with the more crossover?
If you're in I live in Chicago. Mm-hmm. We get probably 5 or 6 snows a year, and I think the Civic's fine. If you live in an area that you're getting snow, for the year and it's heavy, thick snow that everyone uses 4x4s, then I definitely look at the HRV or the CRV for that reason.
I'm going to put you on the spot here. This is from Matthew, and it's a technology question. Any word from Honda on when CarPlay will work via Bluetooth, and do you think they'll add a HomeLink garage opener button on the Touring trim? Can you answer
question. Bluetooth, I know Apple's been working with a couple manufacturers on Bluetooth right now. Nothing's been shown to the public. If I had to guess, I'm going to guess the 2018 models. The 2017 models are probably already starting to not be produced, but they're already figuring out what to put in them. And so you're probably looking at 1 more year until Bluetooth becomes available for CarPlay. I don't know about Android Auto, but I know the technology's there. And I don't know if I can answer the next one. Okay. I don't know if I can answer that right now.
That's fine. Another one on the spot here. What brand is the audio system?
That's a great question. I'm taking a guess, and I'm going to say Pioneer because I don't know if it's been disclosed. Honda normally works a different audio head unit than the speakers. In the past, they've used Alpine, Clarion, and Pioneer. So if you have notes to that, or I could probably check with the parts department somewhere and find out. But that's a good question. I'll have to look into that.
Well, check out the next HondaPro show on Jason's YouTube channel.
There you go.
Let's see here. Gosh, so many good questions. We're kind of running long here. I wanted to try to make this within 20 minutes. So many.
One more good one?
Well, there's so many good ones here. When will the hatch be shown in production form?
The hatch that we saw in Geneva, everyone will be able to see again in New York on the 23rd of March. I'll be doing a full walk-around car also. That's what Honda's calling a prototype. Okay. But I'm going to tell you, I've heard that it's almost exactly what the production car is going to look like. The wheels won't be as big, the mirrors won't be as small, but the basic body structure, length, height, look is going to be almost identical. So if you like that, you're really going to like the production version.
This is something I've never heard, so I don't know if this is just someone baiting us here, but Hawker Mustang. Someone told me they were going to stop making the Accord. Is that true?
No, not as far as I know. Now, they've stopped making the Accord in some countries. About 1.5 years ago, India stopped making the Accord. So they weren't importing any Accords to India at all, and they just had started once up again. So there are times that in certain areas, for reasons, low sales, or they need to change something in the car, they would stop selling a certain model and then bring it back again. But I haven't heard anything like that in the U.S. or Canada and I'd find it hard to believe they'd ever stop selling. It's their number one selling car.
I think we'll leave it at that and let
Cool.
the viewers and subscribers on my channel talk to you and contact you, whether it's on your Facebook, your YouTube, your Twitter
Yeah.
account, your
I'm,
website.
I'm easily found. Just look
Yeah.
up HondaPro Jason. There's no hashtags. There's no underscores. It's just HondaPro Jason and everything. You guys can find me. Ask me any questions. I mean, I'm here for you guys. My motto has been I want to educate and entertain. Dave, I think you probably have the same model because you're super entertaining, and I've learned a lot from watching your videos on other models that I would have never known. So thanks for that, and thanks for the time today. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I do so many Hondas nowadays that I want to just steal your name and call myself Honda Pro Dave, but I can't say professional when you're the pro when it comes to all things Honda.
Appreciate it.
So thank
Thanks,
you for
brother.
your time. And we'll catch up again. For the if people
For
are
sure.
following myself and you, if you have some more questions
Yeah.
or another collaboration idea like this, if you like this type of format, pick a Honda vehicle, and Jason and I will go at it again.
That'd be awesome. I'd love to do it.
All
You
right.
take care. Thanks everyone for the questions. Dave, thanks for your time.
Adios, buddy.
Bye-bye.